Why does an all-loving God allow evil? In the book of Genesis, Joseph's life may have seemed completely unfair. As a teenager, he was his father's favorite, but his brothers hated him for it. One day, out of jealousy, they sold him into slavery. Can you imagine the betrayal? From a beloved son to a slave in a foreign land, it must have felt like God had abandoned him. While serving as a slave in Egypt, Joseph was falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit and thrown into prison. Again, it must have seemed like evil was winning. Years passed, and Joseph's situation didn't improve. Yet even in the darkest moments, God was with him. Over time, Joseph earned a reputation for interpreting dreams, a gift God had given him. This led to an opportunity to interpret Pharaoh's dreams, and because of his wisdom, Joseph was elevated to the second most powerful position in Egypt. Years later, a famine hit the land, and Joseph's brothers came to Egypt seeking food, unaware that their brother was now in charge. When Joseph revealed his identity, they were terrified, thinking he'd take revenge. But Joseph said something extraordinary in Genesis 50:20. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This story shows us something profound. God can take what was meant for evil and use it for good. It's important to understand that God doesn't cause evil. Humans, with our free will, make choices that lead to harm and suffering. But God is so powerful that He can bring beauty out of brokenness, purpose out of pain, and good out of evil. Without the betrayal and suffering Joseph endured, he never would have been in a position to save countless lives during the famine. God didn't abandon Joseph in his pain. He was working behind the scenes to turn it into something greater. This same truth applies to us. The evil we see in the world, war, injustice, sickness, and suffering, can make it look like evil is winning. But it's all a part of God's plan. He's present, weaving even the darkest moments into His greater plan. The ultimate example of this is the cross. Jesus, the perfect Son of God, was betrayed, beaten, and crucified, an act of ultimate evil. Yet through His death, God brought the ultimate good, salvation for all who believe. So, why does God allow evil? We may not have all the answers, but we know this: He's still in control, He's still working. And He promises in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Think about the moments in Joseph's life when everything seemed hopeless. When he was in the pit his brothers threw him into, he probably thought his life was over. When he was sold into slavery, he might have wondered if he'd ever see freedom again. And when he was sitting in prison for a crime he didn't commit, he must have felt forgotten. But through every dark moment, God was quietly working behind the scenes to bring Joseph to a place of purpose and restoration. In the same way, your pain, your struggles, and even the evil you face are all a part of God's plan for your good. God's promises are clear. He will never leave you or forsake you. He can take what feels like shattered pieces and build something beautiful. You might not see the good right away. Sometimes God's work takes time, just like it did for Joseph. It took years for Joseph to see how God was turning his pain into something greater. But when the moment came, it all made sense. What others meant for evil, God turned into good, not just for Joseph, but for countless lives that were saved during the famine. The same is true for you. Your pain has a purpose, even if you can't see it yet. God can take the things meant to harm you, hurtful words, betrayal, loss, or injustice, and use them to shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for something greater. Your story may not be easy, but it's not without meaning. God doesn't waste anything. He doesn't waste the tears you cry in secret. He doesn't waste the nights you spend asking why, and He certainly won't waste the pain you've endured. Instead, He will use it in ways you never imagined to bring glory to His name and hope to others. So, if you're feeling stuck in your pain, remember that God is still writing your story. It's not over. You're not forgotten. His plan is still unfolding, and in His timing, you'll see how even the darkest chapters are leading to something beautiful. Type, "I trust God's plan" in the comments if you're ready to believe that He can bring good out of any situation. Share this with someone who's feeling lost today. God is working, even when you can't see it. He's turning pain into purpose, and He won't stop until your story is complete.